Did New York Attorney General Letitia James just take out the other Cuomo brother? She already did a number on former Governor Andrew Cuomo. Now, Chris Cuomo is in a lot of hot water, might be on his way out over there at CNN. You know who we're talking about. Chris Cuomo, this fella over there on CNN, very important, covers a lot of the news. He's in hot water now over some text messages, some exchanges, some conversations that were taking place back when his brother, then the governor, was in hot water in New York himself, talking about sexual harassment and some other claims that were being made by a whole slew of women against him when he was abusing his power as governor. So the allegations were, at least some of the smoke that many people were seeing out there in the forest, looked like Chris Cuomo over in the media department was covering for his brother over in the government department. Chris Cuomo covering for Andrew Cuomo. A lot of smoke there, but not a whole much of fire that anybody saw until very recently. Thank you to Letitia James. So CNN came out yesterday and they reported for us. They say, New York Attorney General's office released transcripts and exhibits that shed new light on Chris Cuomo's involvement in his brother's defense when he was governor. The documents, they say, which were not privy to them before their public release, raises serious questions. When Chris admitted to us that he had offered evidence to his brother's staff, he broke our rules, and we acknowledged that publicly. But we also appreciated the unique position he was in and understood the need to put family first and his job second. They gave him a pass on this. However, they say, these documents now point to a greater level of involvement in his brother's efforts than we previously knew, and as a result, we have suspended Chris indefinitely, pending further evaluation. Now, here is a real professional over at CNN reading that same statement, but you can see how CNN and Anderson Cooper broke it to their viewers yesterday. Here's how that sounded.
Tubin, John Dean, appreciate it. Some news now about this network. It involves Chris Cuomo, the host of Cuomo Prime Time. New documents released this week indicated that Chris was more intimately involved than previously known in helping his brother, former New York Governor Andrew Cuomo, craft a defense amid a flurry of sexual misconduct allegations. Here's a statement released tonight from a CNN spokesperson. Quote, the New York Attorney General's office released transcripts and exhibits Monday that shed new light on Chris Cuomo's involvement in his brother's defense. The documents, which we were not privy to before their public release, raised serious questions. The spokesperson continued, quote, when Chris admitted to us that he had offered advice to his brother's staff, he broke our rules, and we acknowledged that publicly. But we also appreciated the unique position he was in and understood his need to put family first and job second. However, these documents point to a greater level of involvement in his brother's efforts than we previously knew, the spokesperson added. As a result, we have suspended Chris indefinitely, pending further evaluation.
Okay.
Second hour of 360 is right after the break.
Oh, that's it? Nothing else? You're not going to give us any commentary on that there? Anderson reads the statement, obviously much better than I can. He's paid millions of dollars to read stuff from a screen. I'm not. But he read the statement, doesn't give us any wince of emotion whatsoever. Just we right back after this commercial. So what is he talking about? What is CNN talking about? This further investigation. We all know for a long time that Chris Cuomo and his brother have been very close. Not that that's a problem. Brothers should be close. But it is a little bit of a problem when one person is in the government, one other person is in the media. The media is an entity that is supposed to hold the government accountable. When they are colluding with one another, that is a problem, especially when you proffer yourself forward to the American public as somebody that is neutral, unbiased, and the arbiter of the truth. Turns out that's not really the case. How do we know that? Letitia James, remember Attorney General Letitia James? She's the one who said that Trump was an illegitimate president, was going to do everything she could to take him out. And she's kind of on a whirlwind. She has been just going after a lot of people in the old boys power club. We know that she went after Andrew Cuomo for all of these different sexual harassment charges. So she took out the elder of the Cuomo brothers, now going after younger brother. And so they posted this back a couple days ago. They're doing this thing called a sort of a continual release of discovery documents. So let's read through. This is what CNN is talking about when they're reading through all their documents. Says additional transcripts and exhibits and videos of their independent investigation in the sexual harassment allegations against Cuomo are being released. So they've got new transcripts and new exhibits of staff of outside advisors are all being released today. Letitia James says the office is going to continue the rolling release of these transcripts. Remember, they did this very deep dive investigation. They were going to charge him with a crime. Turns out Andrew Cuomo did getting charged with the crime. On August 3rd, after nearly 5 months of investigating, independent investigators from James's office released their report concerning multiple allegations. Following the release of those reports, multiple district attorneys asked that the Office of the Attorney General refrain from publicly releasing those transcripts or other evidence so that their offices could first investigate and determine whether to file criminal charges against Cuomo. All right, so we see what's happening. So Cuomo gets into a little bit of hot water. Letitia James, presumably one of Cuomo's opponents. I'm not sure if she's declared that she's running for governor yet or not, but presumably she will soon. And so she takes out one of her opponents, conducts this big, long investigation, sexual harassment charges. All this is going to be kept under seal for a long time until she releases her findings. Even when she does release her findings, then other attorneys, prosecutors from around the rest of the state say, okay, now that you've got your findings, just don't release the underlying documents. You can release your summary, but don't release the actual exhibits. Don't release the actual transcripts of the depositions. First, let us investigate this stuff. And then after we've come to our conclusion about whether we're going to file our own criminal charges based on the potential crimes that happen in our jurisdictions, we'll make a decision whether to charge or not. If we decline charges, then Miss James, go ahead and release this stuff. So turns out that happened. Following the filing of a criminal complaint against Cuomo then, October 28th, 2021, that happens in Albany County. Albany County District Attorney's Office informed the Office of the Attorney General that it would begin releasing evidence to Cuomo to comply with New York's discovery laws. So now, since in Albany, Governor Cuomo, former Governor Cuomo, Andrew Cuomo, he's being charged with a crime. So now, since he's being charged with the crime as a defendant, he's entitled to see what the evidence is against him. He's been charged with the crime. Okay, you say I did something wrong. Tell me what I did wrong. Show me the police reports, name the witnesses, show me who the victim is, give me all of your transcripts or video, whatever you've got. I'm entitled to see it. I have a right to confront my accuser. So now that this is a pending criminal case, and now that this is all going to be part of the public record, and disclosure is already happening to Andrew Cuomo's defense team, she's saying that they are releasing this stuff because they're going to be having to comply with their own discovery laws. These laws state that once someone is charged with the crime, they must be furnished with the evidence. As these materials are now being released to the Albany County District Attorney's Office, and in an effort to provide full transparency to all the people of New York, the OAG has informed local district attorneys it's going to begin releasing immediately on a rolling basis everything: transcripts, corresponding exhibits, videos compiled during the investigation, pending redactions to protect the privacy of individuals as appropriate, but otherwise this puppy's starting on November 9th. And the investigation was conducted on March 1st. They talk about who led the investigation. Okay, so from November 9th onward, the Attorney General's office is just going to be publishing stuff up on the internet, and they've already been doing that. And so here, if you can continue forward over on their website, this is all publicly available. They say, Governor Andrew Cuomo, we've got video testimony of him that has been released now. He's the subject of the investigation, obviously. They've previously released the transcript of that and the exhibits surrounding the elder of the Cuomos. We talk about the complainants. So we've got Charlotte Bennett, video testimony from her. Lindsey Boylan talked a lot about her. Brittany Comiso here on this channel talked a lot about her. All making these claims against Andrew, and all of their transcripts and exhibits were released. So most of this is not even interesting. More rolling updates. Former executive chamber staff. We got outside advisors. Rich Azzopardi. Pete, don't know who that is. Andrew Ball. Don't know who that is. Steve Benton. Steve Cohen. No idea. Almost irrelevant. But you can see there are, continuing disclosures. And then we get to this one. Oh, Chris Cuomo. Remember, we're talking about outside advisors. Outside advisors being people who advise the governor. And the governor was Chris Cuomo's brother, Andrew. So we get these two interesting little links now that the Attorney General publishes. CNN catches wind of these bad boys. And they have to suspend Mr. Christopher Cuomo. And so womp womp, he comes down unhappy about this. Now, these are massive document treasure troves. So we're not going to go through all of these, obviously, here in this video. We're just going to talk about a couple quick highlights. But I want to show you the cover pages for both of these documents. In the matter of the independent investigation from the Attorney General's office, highly confidential video recorded testimony of Christopher Cuomo. Took place Thursday, July 15, 2021. Stenographer Patricia Bidonde. Now, 348 pages. Very, very big document. And it is actually somewhat interesting to read through. I got to be honest, I did not read through all 348 pages. I just sort of looked through what the structure of the conversation was. And you get to see Chris Cuomo sitting down and having a particular conversation with somebody about his communications that took place back and forth. Did you talk to this person then? I mean, sort of, probably, maybe a lot of that. When was the last time you talked to her? Well, I don't know, a couple months ago. What'd you talk about? Well, I don't remember. I talked to a lot of people. Well, when was it specifically? June maybe? Well, how many emails accounts do you have? I don't know. I don't know. I don't know how many email accounts I have. Okay. How many email accounts do you control? Oh, 2. Okay. CNN and a personal one. Okay. So it's a lot of that. So not much that is super interesting that stood out immediately to me, but there's a lot. There's 348 pages of documents, and so I'm sure the internet will still continue to go through this. That's only one part of this. The other part, that was for the transcript that came out of the deposition that took place, the recorded testimony. Then we also have another set of 169 pages that are from us, these are exhibits that come from a subpoena, so to produce some documents. And so we're going to take a look at this as well. And specifically, we're going to get documents that include transcripts of text messages. So, the actual recorded conversations that took place in conversations between Chris Cuomo and some people from Andrew Cuomo's staff. So here you can see this comes out of the state of New York Office of the Attorney General. So Letitia James and the people over at her office just sort of went wild and filed a bunch of subpoenas. And the big thing that is sort of making the rounds that everybody is talking a lot about that is obviously highly problematic are conversations between Chris Cuomo, CNN anchor, and this woman named Melissa DeRosa, who was a senior advisor to Governor Cuomo, Andrew Cuomo, and they were having conversations about responses to Cuomo's sexual harassment problems. The actual allegations coming from these other women. Melissa DeRosa, senior advisor to the governor, is talking to Chris Cuomo, media personality, about a public relations response where Chris Cuomo works. So you see there's an obvious and immediate conflict of interest. So before we see what these text messages look like, let's take a look at who this person is. We've got Melissa DeRosa here. She was in office with Governor Cuomo from 2017 to 2021, all the way up until August when he was on his way out. So we see Governor, Democratic Party, worked for the state director for Barack Obama's PAC. She became director of communications for Cuomo March 2013, secretary to the governor 2017. The secretary to the governor has been described by the New York Times as the most powerful appointed official in the state. Okay, so it's like the chief of staff almost for the president. She is the first woman to be appointed to that role, helped steer bills through legislature, chair of the New York State Council, sexual harassment during COVID-19 pandemic. She's been accused of playing a part in an alleged effort to prevent state officials from releasing the true total of the nursing home deaths that were related to COVID-19. So she says that they were just trying to be accurate. She resigned to the governor August 8, 2021, effective August 24th. So attorney, she's already lawyered up, says that she was acting on advice from counsel. And so this is the person that Christopher Cuomo was having conversations with back and forth. You can see, I mean, she's very powerful up in the government's, the right-hand woman for the governor. Literally executes everything. New York Times says one of the most, if not the most powerful position, maybe outside the governor. So Chris Cuomo, CNN anchor, is now having these exchanges. We see from Melissa DeRosa to Christopher Cuomo. Jesse McKinley tweeted, Breaking. 25-year-old former aide, New York governor, told New York Times governor harassed her, asking if she had sex with older men, among other claims. Cuomo says that was a mentor, never made or acted appropriately. Cuomo responds from Cuomo to Melissa, says, what happened to this statement? Melissa says, I'm on with the AG. I'm talking to the Attorney General. So Cuomo then responds, says back to Melissa DeRosa, here's what he should have said. I'm in the media, and I'm helping conduct public relations conversations for my brother who's in the governor's office. He sends to Melissa, here's what he should have said. Says, I have carefully considered Miss Bennett's statement and my own conduct. I don't dispute that our conversation was as she reports. I also do not dispute that my words and supervisory position may have created a hostile work environment. I apologize to Ms. Bennett and will promptly seek to personally communicate my apology to her. I also apologize to the people of New York who have the right to better conduct from their governor. This will not happen again. So Christopher Cuomo, younger brother to Governor Andrew Cuomo, is literally drafting PR statements, sending them over to Melissa DeRosa, who is then going to, I guess she's on the phone with the Attorney General to talk about all this. CNN anchor, independent news reporting entity, and they let him stay on the air. So we have more conversations taking place. Cuomo says, this is Andrew Cuomo's poor statement annotated. So we have another quote with a lot of the same language. Says, questions have been raised about some of my past interactions and with people in the office. He gives us a parentheses. I never intended to offend or harm anyone. So he's giving us annotations. I see what's happening here. He says, no one says he intended to offend or harm. What he's accused of is creating a hostile work environment, which is judged objectively by the natural meaning of his words and conduct, not by what he says or intended. So he's sort of being critical of this statement. Statement continues, says, I spend most of my life at work and colleagues are often personal friends. And he says, quote, he jumps in, says, it's perhaps true that my work colleagues are personal friends, but most supervisors know that many issues may arise from personal friendships with work subordinates. In other words, saying that they're not going to let you out on that one. That sentence, he's basically saying is no good. They're not going to give you an exit on that. Quote, at work, sometimes I think I'm being playful and make jokes that I think are funny. I do on occasion tease people in a way that I think is a good-natured way. I do it in public and private. You have seen me do it in briefings 100 times. I have teased people about their personal, and then it cuts out. Then we pick back up the next day, so we sort of have a break in the conversation there. And then we have Melissa, Chris Cuomo sends to Melissa, God, I panic every effing time I see your name. The talk is precarious. I worry about this, quote, if investigation improves. I worry about this, quote, if investigation proves allegations, he has to go. Chris Cuomo fires off same following day on March 3rd, sends over to Melissa DeRosa, please let me help with the prep. Let me help with all this. Working at CNN on the TV, talking about the news and these situations, helping his governor brother with prep. It continues. Chris Cuomo says, if Ronan has nothing better than Boylan, that's a great sign. Talking about the victims, Boylan, right? If that's all she's got, only got Boylan, Melissa DeRosa responds back. Maybe provides a phone number or something like that. Might say, call me at the number. Why? To discuss the Ronan convo. And then Melissa says to Chris, did you get any more intel? So they're exchanging intel now. So Chris Cuomo over at a news reporting agency that gathers intel, that gathers news, that's supposed to be investigating these types of things, that claims to be doing that. Investigative journalism over there at CNN, getting to the bottom of what's going on, talking to these victims, exploring these issues. Anybody else abused by this guy? Chris Cuomo, who was still working there up until yesterday, reporting intel back to his brother. Melissa, did you get any more intel? you know, the entire CNN apparatus that goes out and investigates all sorts of stuff? Hearing anything? Okay, so you can see why CNN's a little bit upset about that. Now, most of us could have speculated that that was going on, but apparently they couldn't. Now, Evan Hill over on Twitter also found a little nugget. This comes over from the exhibits. You can see it says that on Sunday, February 28th, there was a statement. Evan tells us this looks like it comes from Chris Cuomo to his brother's advisory team, drafting a public response to the allegations against the governor. You can see on Sunday, this comes from Josh Vlasto to Chris Cuomo. I can't seems to dial back in. That's coming from C. So I'm thinking this is maybe a response from Chris Cuomo that was printed from his inbox showing that he sent it. Does that make sense? So this is from Chris's email. He sent it. So we're looking at that, but not the sent email. Okay. So I think that's coming from Chris back over to Josh. But regardless, really, this is the more important part. It says on Sunday, February 28th at 3:13 p.m., this was at 3:20 p.m., Chris Cuomo wrote from this email address, which is redacted, says this. We have a full paragraph, which looks like a public release, press release statement. Questions have been raised about some of my past interactions with people in the office. I spend most of my life at work with colleagues, never intended to offend anybody, right? The same statement that we were talking about, just slight modifications. You see me do it all the time at briefings hundreds of times. My only desire is to add some levity and banter to what is a very serious business. I now understand that my interactions may have been insensitive or too personal, and that some of my comments, given my position, made others feel in a way I never intended. I'm sorry, and I feel deeply embarrassed about that. Separately, my office has heard anecdotally that some people have reached out to Ms. Bennett to express displeasure about her coming forward. My message to anyone that you have misjudged what matters to me, you should stop that now. Basically, don't harass anybody who's coming forward against me. So back on February 28, 2021, CNN anchor Christopher Cuomo is having conversations with former Governor Andrew Cuomo about public relations and dealing with multiple sex allegations coming his brother's way. Now, Chris Cuomo, of course, is still out there in the media, and he responded to all this on his Sirius radio show. Brian Flood gave us the background on this. Apparently, Cuomo got on there and says, quote, "I've been suspended from CNN. You know this already. It hurts to even say it. It's embarrassing, but I understand it. And I understand why some people feel the way they do about what I did." Brian Flood says, Cuomo said, "I've apologized in the past, and I mean it. It's the last thing I ever wanted to do was to compromise any of my colleagues and do anything but help. I know they have a process that they think is important, and I respect that process, so I'm not going to talk about this any more than that." And so we'll see what CNN ends up doing, whether they continue this suspension indefinitely, or whether they make a decision to release Chris Cuomo, or if they bring him back in 2 weeks and say, well, he was suspended and he's very sorry. And we all knew he was doing this stuff anyways, so he can come right on back. If Jeffrey Toobin's still there, Christopher Cuomo, maybe we'll see him back in a week. So that was Christopher Cuomo. We're going to continue to watch what CNN, people in the media do, how they continue their incestuous relationship with those other individuals in the government and elsewhere throughout our society. And we hope you join us along as we cover this case and many others. Hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. I'd appreciate a like and a comment if you enjoy this content down below. Otherwise, my friends, I will see you on the next one.